It was a bright, sunny Saturday morning. The sky was blue, the birds were chirping, and everything felt calm and happy. I woke up excited because it was the perfect day to try out my brand new pool heater. I'd been waiting all week for this. I walked out to my backyard, flipped the switch, and listened. The heater made a tiny hum, so soft you could barely hear it. It was just right for warming up the water so I could jump in and relax. I smiled, thinking about how awesome it would be to swim in my nice, warm pool. Everything seemed perfect. Or so I thought. But then, there was Linda. She lived right next door to me, and let me tell you, she was not like most neighbors. Linda was the kind of person who acted like she was the boss of everything. She was part of something called the HOA, which is a group that makes rules for our neighborhood. But Linda didn't just follow the rules, she acted like she made them all herself. She walked around with her head held high, like she was a queen, and she always carried a clipboard. That clipboard was her favorite thing. She'd write stuff down on it all the time, like she was keeping track of every little thing we did. Most people in the neighborhood didn't pay much attention to her. They'd see her coming, roll their eyes, and go back to whatever they were doing. She'd talk and talk, but nobody really listened. Me. I didn't mind her too much at first. I figured she'd leave me alone. I mean, I wasn't doing anything wrong. I kept my yard clean, I didn't play loud music, and I was nice to everyone. But deep down, I had a feeling Linda would find something to complain about. She always did. If someone planted a new flower, she'd say it was the wrong color. If a kid rode a bike too fast, she'd shake her clipboard and yell about safety. Linda loved to make a fuss. And when I turned on that pool heater, I had no idea she was about to make the biggest fuss of all. Here's the thing, Linda wasn't just annoying. She was hiding something. Something big. Something way more exciting than a silly fight about a pool heater. I didn't know it yet, but that sunny Saturday was about to turn into a wild adventure. And Linda? She was about to get herself into a mess she couldn't talk her way out of. So, before we go any further, let me ask you something fun. What's the wildest thing a neighbor has ever done to bug you? Maybe they banged on your door because your dog barked once. Or maybe they complained about your Halloween decorations being too spooky. Whatever it is, I bet it's not as crazy as what Linda's about to do. Stick with me, because this story is going to take things to a whole new level. Let's rewind a bit. That morning, I was so happy about my pool heater. I'd saved up for it for months. It wasn't one of those loud, clunky machines that sounds like a car engine. No way. This one was quiet and smooth, perfect for a peaceful swim. I could already picture myself floating in the warm water, maybe sipping a lemonade, just soaking up the sunshine. My backyard isn't huge, but it's my little piece of paradise. I've got a small pool, a few chairs, and a big umbrella for shade. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine, and I love it. I turned on the heater and stood there for a minute, listening to that soft hum. It was working great. I couldn't wait to jump in later. I went back inside to grab some breakfast, thinking everything was fine. The sun was shining, the day was young, and nothing could go wrong. Right? Wrong. Because Linda was watching. I didn't see her yet, but she was out there, probably standing on her porch with that clipboard, squinting at my house like she was a detective in a movie. Linda wasn't tall or scary looking. She was just a regular lady with short hair and glasses that slid down her nose. But the way she acted? Oh, she thought she was the most important person around. She'd march up and down the street, telling people what to do. Cut your grass shorter, she'd say. Your mailbox is crooked, she'd whine. Most of us just nodded and ignored her. She wasn't really in charge of anything, she just liked pretending she was. The real HOA people didn't even listen to her half the time. But Linda didn't care. She kept bossing everyone around anyway. I'd seen her do it 100 times. Like when Mr. Johnson painted his fence blue. Linda showed up at his door, waving her clipboard, saying blue wasn't approved. Mr. Johnson just laughed and shut the door in her face. Or when little Timmy rode his scooter on the sidewalk, and Linda told his mom it was dangerous. Timmy's mom told her to mind her own business. Linda always huffed and puffed, but she never stopped. She loved being the neighborhood nag. So when I got that pool heater, I kind of knew she'd notice. I mean, Linda noticed everything. I just didn't think she'd care so much. It's a pool heater. It's not loud, it's not ugly, it's not breaking any rules. But Linda didn't see it that way. To her, anything new was a problem. And I was about to find out just how big of a problem she could make it. That Saturday, I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know Linda was already planning her next move. I didn't know she'd turn a quiet day into a total circus. And I definitely didn't know she was hiding a secret one that had nothing to do with my pool. But I was about to find out. And trust me, it was going to be wild. Picture this, me, standing in my backyard, happy as can be. The pool heater's on, the water's warming up, and I'm ready for a great day. Then there's Linda, lurking next door, her clipboard ready to strike. She didn't like me messing with her perfect little world. She didn't like that I was doing something she didn't approve of. And she was about to let me know it big time. So here's where you come in again. Have you ever had a neighbor who just wouldn't leave you alone? Maybe they knocked on your door over something silly, like your trash cans being out too long. Or maybe they stared at you through their window every time you mowed the lawn. Whatever it was, I want to hear about it. Because Linda's about to top it all. She's going to take annoying to a level you won't believe. That sunny Saturday started so simple. I had no clue what was waiting for me. I didn't know Linda was about to flip everything upside down. All I wanted was a warm pool and a quiet day. But Linda? She had other plans. And those plans were going to make this a day I'd never forget. Stick around, because this story's just getting started. Linda's got a surprise up her sleeve, and it's not what you think. What's she going to do next? And why's she so mad about a pool heater? You'll find out soon, but trust me, it's going to be a wild ride. It was Monday morning, just 2 days after I turned on my new pool heater. I was sitting at my kitchen table, sipping a cup of warm coffee. The sun was shining through the window, and everything felt calm. I was still happy about my pool, thinking about how nice it would be to swim later. Then, all of a sudden, bang, bang, bang. Someone was pounding on my front door, loud enough to make me jump. I set my coffee down and walked over, wondering who it could be. When I opened the door, there she was, Linda. My next door neighbor. Her face was bright red, like she was super mad, and she was holding that clipboard of hers like it was a sword or something. "Your pool heater's too loud," she yelled, her voice all high and squeaky. "It's against the rules, and I'm calling the HOA board right now." She waved the clipboard in my face, pointing at it like it proved something. I stood there, a little shocked. Too loud. My pool heater? I knew that wasn't true. It was brand new, and it barely made any noise at all. It was quieter than a whisper, quieter than the wind blowing through the trees. I tried to tell her that. "Linda," I said, nice and calm, "it's not loud. It's new. You can hardly hear it." But she didn't want to listen. Not even a little bit. "No," she snapped, cutting me off. "You're wrong. It's breaking the rules, and you'll hear from us." Then she turned around and stomped off, her shoe slapping the ground hard. I watched her go, her head held high like always. I closed the door and shrugged. Okay, I thought. Let her complain. What's the worst she could do? Call the HOA? Write me a letter? I wasn't scared. I went back to my coffee, thinking it was no big deal. But I was wrong. Things were about to get weird. The next day was Tuesday. I was out in my backyard, checking on the pool. The water was nice and warm now, thanks to the heater. I was smiling, feeling good. Then I looked up and there was Linda. She was standing on her side of the fence, peeking over at me. Her glasses were slipping down her nose, and she had that clipboard in her hands again. She didn't say anything, just stared at me, scribbling stuff down fast. Scribble, scribble, scribble. What was she writing? Notes about me? About the pool heater? I waved at her, trying to be friendly. "Hi, Linda." I called. She didn't wave back. She just ducked down quick, like she didn't want me to see her. But I did see her. And it felt strange. I went back inside, but I kept thinking about it. Why was she sneaking around like that? What was she up to? It didn't make sense. It was just a pool heater, not some big, loud machine. Why did she care so much? I started to wonder if maybe Linda was a little crazy. Or maybe she just didn't like me. But still, peeking over the fence? Writing secret notes? That was next level weird. Then came Wednesday. I was out front, watering my flowers, when I heard her voice again. This time, she was on her porch, yelling loud enough for the whole street to hear. "You'll regret this," she shouted, pointing at me. I turned around, holding my watering can, totally confused. Regret what? The pool heater? I hadn't done anything to her. I just stood there, staring. "Linda," I said, "what are you talking about?" But she didn't answer. She just glared at me, her face all scrunched up, then went back inside and slammed her door. Bam! The sound echoed down the street. I put the watering can down and scratched my head. Regret this? It was the strangest thing she'd ever said. I mean, it's a pool heater. It's not like I was throwing wild parties or building a giant tower in my yard. What was her problem? I started to feel a little mad. She was acting like I'd done something terrible, but I hadn't. All I did was turn on a quiet little machine so I could swim. Why was she making such a big deal out of it? And why did she keep saying stuff like that, stuff that didn't even make sense? That's when I started wondering about Linda. She always acted like she was the boss of the neighborhood. She'd walk around with that clipboard, telling people what to do. "Your dog's too loud," she'd say to one neighbor. "Your car's parked wrong," she'd tell another. She loved being in charge, or at least pretending she was. But maybe she wasn't as powerful as she thought. Maybe all that yelling and clipboard waving was just a show. I had a funny feeling in my stomach, like there was more to Linda than I knew. Something she didn't want anyone to find out. By now, I was getting tired of her. Monday, she banged on my door. Tuesday, she spied on me. Wednesday, she yelled crazy things from her porch. What was next? Was she going to stand in my yard and scream? Was she going to write a whole book about my pool heater? I didn't know, but I was starting to think Linda was up to something. She wasn't just being annoying, she was acting sneaky. And that made me curious. What was her deal? Why was she so mad about something so small? I decided to keep my eyes open. If she was going to keep bugging me, I'd watch her right back. The funny thing is, I wasn't even mad at first. When she banged on my door Monday, I just thought, oh, that's Linda being Linda. When she peeked over the fence Tuesday, I figured she was just nosy. But by Wednesday, with all that "you'll regret this" stuff, I was done. She was picking a fight over nothing, and I didn't get it. My pool heater wasn't hurting anyone. It wasn't loud. It wasn't against the rules I'd checked. So why was she acting like I'd started a war? I went back inside after watering my flowers and sat down. I thought about Linda some more. She acted like she ruled the world, but maybe she didn't. Maybe she was scared of something. Maybe she was hiding something. I didn't know what yet, but I could feel it. Something wasn't right. And the more she yelled and spied, the more I wanted to find out what it was. So there I was, stuck in this weird little battle with Linda. Me with my quiet pool heater, her with her loud mouth and clipboard. It was silly, but it was getting serious. She wasn't going to stop, I could tell. And I wasn't going to let her boss me around over nothing. What was she going to do next? Call someone? Tell lies? I didn't know, but I was ready to find out. Linda thought she was in charge, but I had a feeling she was about to trip over her own big plans. And when she did, oh, it was going to be good. By Thursday, things with Linda got even crazier. It was a nice afternoon, and I was out in my backyard again. The pool heater was humming softly, just like always. I was checking the water, thinking about jumping in later. Everything felt normal until I heard her voice. Linda's voice. Loud, dramatic, and kind of wild. She was on her phone, standing in her yard, talking so big I could hear every word. "Yes, 9/11, she said, all serious. "There's a disturbance. A loud machine. Send someone quick." I froze. Did she just say 911? Was she calling the cops? Over my pool heater? I couldn't believe it. My jaw dropped, and I stood there, staring over the fence toward her house. A pool heater isn't a loud machine. It's tiny and quiet, like a little fan. I shook my head, thinking she'd lost her mind. Calling the cops over something so silly? That was next level nuts. I ran inside quick and peeked out my front window, waiting to see what would happen. My heart was beating fast because I didn't know what to expect. Would the police knock on my door? Would they tell me to turn off my heater? I didn't think I was in trouble. It wasn't loud, but with Linda, you never knew. She was making this a big deal, and I was stuck watching it all unfold. Sure enough, a few minutes later, I saw it. A police car rolled up our street, slow and steady. Its lights weren't flashing, but it still looked serious. I held my breath as it stopped right in front of our houses. Linda was already outside, waiting for them. She had her clipboard in one hand, and she was waving her arms around like she was directing traffic. "Over here," she shouted, pointing at my house. "It's his house. That loud machine is coming from there." She looked so sure of herself, like she'd caught me doing something awful. I stayed by the window, peeking through the curtains, wondering what the cops would do. I mean, she was acting like I was some kind of master criminal, not just a guy with a pool. But then, something weird happened. The cops didn't come to my door. Not at all. They got out of their car, two of them, wearing dark uniforms, and walked straight toward Linda's house. I blinked. Wait, what? I thought they were here for me. Linda thought so too, because she started yelling again. No, it's his house," she said, pointing at me even harder. "The noise is from there." But the officers didn't turn around. They kept walking toward her, calm and steady. One of them held up a hand, like he was telling her to chill out. The other one said something I couldn't quite hear. Linda's face went from red to white, like she'd seen a ghost. I grabbed my phone off the table and stepped outside. I didn't go far, just to my front porch so I could listen better. I stayed quiet, pretending I was checking my mailbox or something. The cops were talking to Linda now, and she was still arguing. "You don't understand," she said, her voice all shaky. "It's him. He's the problem." But the officers didn't look like they cared about what she was saying. One of them, a tall guy with a deep voice, spoke up loud enough for me to hear. "Ma'am," he said, "we need to talk to you first." First? What did that mean? Why her? I was so confused. My pool heater was still humming in the backyard, quiet as ever, but the cops weren't even looking my way. I stood there, holding my phone, trying to figure it out. Did Linda mess up her own complaint? Did she call the cops and accidentally tell them the wrong thing? That would be funny, her trying to get me in trouble and tripping over herself instead. But something told me it wasn't that simple. The way the cops were acting, all calm and serious, made me think there was more going on. Linda kept waving her arms, her clipboard flapping around, but the officers just stood there, watching her. They didn't seem mad or rushed. They seemed prepared. Like they knew something I didn't. That's when I started wondering, what was Linda hiding? She'd been weird all week. Monday, she banged on my door, yelling about the heater. Tuesday, she spied on me over the fence. Wednesday, she shouted that I'd regret this. And now, Thursday, she called 911 like it was some big emergency. It didn't add up. A pool heater wasn't worth all this drama. She was acting like I'd done something huge, something bad, but I hadn't. So why was she freaking out so much? And why were the cops talking to her instead of me? I leaned against my porch railing, watching the whole thing. Linda's voice was getting louder, but it sounded different now, less bossy, more nervous. "I'm the one who called you," she said, almost whining. "Why aren't you listening?" The tall cop shook his head and said something quiet I couldn't catch. Linda took a step back, clutching her clipboard tight. She looked scared. Not mad, not in charge, scared. That was new. I'd never seen her look like that before. She always acted so big and tough, like nothing could touch her. But right then, she didn't look tough at all. I started thinking back over the week. Linda had been on my case nonstop. Every day, she found a new way to bug me about that pool heater. It was like she couldn't let it go. But maybe it wasn't about the heater at all. Maybe it was about something else, something she didn't want anyone to know. The cops being at her house made me wonder. Were they really here because of her 911 call? Or was there another reason? My brain was spinning with questions. What was her secret? Why was she so sneaky? And why did she care so much about my pool? I stayed on my porch, watching and listening. The cops didn't leave. They kept talking to Linda, and she kept arguing, but she wasn't winning. One of them pulled out a little notebook and started writing stuff down. Linda's eyes got wide, and she shook her head fast. No, no, you've got it wrong, she said. But they didn't stop. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught bits and pieces. Words like check and report floated over to me. It didn't sound like they were talking about a pool heater. It sounded bigger than that. Friday came fast, and oh boy, it was the day everything turned upside down. I was out by my pool, just chilling. The water was warm, the sun was shining, and the heater was humming its soft little tune. I had a lemonade in my hand, feeling good after a wild week with Linda. I thought maybe she'd finally given up. No more banging on my door, no more spying, no more yelling. Maybe she'd gotten tired of fighting about my pool heater. I was wrong. So wrong. I heard cars coming down the street, 2 of them. Police cars. Not just one this time, but 2. Their radios were crackling loud, and the officers inside looked super serious. No smiles, no waves, just business. My heart started beating fast. What now? I set my lemonade down and watched as the cars stopped right in front of our houses. Linda was already outside, standing in her front yard. She looked sweaty and nervous, her hands shaking a little. That clipboard of hers? She was holding it tight, like it was her only friend in the world. I didn't know what was happening, but I had to find out. I sneaked closer, pretending I was just going to check my mailbox. I walked slow, keeping my eyes on Linda and the cops. There were 4 officers now, all in their dark uniforms, standing around her. She didn't look like the bossy Linda I knew. She looked small, scared, like a kid caught doing something bad. I got to my mailbox and fiddled with it, opening and closing the little door, but I wasn't really looking at it. I was listening. And then I heard it, the moment that changed everything. Linda Grayson, one cop said, loud and clear. He was a big guy with a deep voice, and he stood tall, looking right at her. You're under arrest for falsifying HOA records and theft. My jaw dropped. Literally. My mouth fell open, and I almost dropped the mailbox door on my finger. Linda's jaw dropped too. Her eyes got huge, and she just stood there, frozen. Arrest. Theft. HOA records? What was he talking about? I couldn't believe my ears. Linda wasn't just a nosy neighbor, she was a criminal. The cop kept talking, and I kept listening, trying to make sense of it all. Falsifying HOA records meant she'd been lying about stuff for the HOA, the group that makes rules for our neighborhood. And theft? That meant stealing. Stealing. The cop said she'd been taking money that belonged to all of us in the neighborhood. You see, we all pay a little bit to the HOA every month. That cash is supposed to fix things like the playground or the streetlights. But Linda? She'd been sneaking some of that money and keeping it for herself. For years. She'd been acting like the queen of the neighborhood, but really, she was a thief. I stood there by my mailbox, my brain spinning. Linda. Stealing. It was so wild, I almost laughed. All week, she'd been mad about my pool heater banging on my door, spying, yelling, even calling 911. And now this? The cops putting handcuffs on her? It was like a movie, but it was real, and it was happening right in front of me. I peeked over at her again. Her clipboard was still in her hands, but it wasn't helping her now. One of the cops took it from her, gentle but firm, and set it on the ground. Another cop pulled out shiny silver handcuffs. Linda's face went white, and she started shaking her head. No, 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 she said, her voice all wobbly. You've got it wrong. I didn't do anything. But the cops didn't listen. They'd heard that before, I guess. The big cop with the deep voice put the handcuffs on her wrists, click, click, and that was it. Linda Grayson, the lady who bossed everyone around, was caught. Her big secret was out, and there was no hiding it anymore. Then came the juiciest part of all. The cop said something else while he was holding her arm. "We been looking into you for a while, ma'am," he said. "That 911 call yesterday? Didn't change a thing." My eyes got wide. Wait a minute. They'd been investigating her before she called the cops on me? That meant her big plan calling 911 about my pool heater wasn't even why they were here. She thought she was so smart, telling the police I was the problem. But they already knew she was the real trouble. My pool heater? It was just her dumb excuse to act like she was still in charge. She didn't know they were onto her the whole time. I couldn't help it, I grinned. Linda had spent all week picking on me, acting like my quiet little heater was the worst thing ever. Monday, she yelled at me. Tuesday, she spied. Wednesday, she threatened me. Thursday, she called 911. And now, Friday, she was the one in handcuffs. Not me. Her. It was almost too good to be true. She'd been sneaking around, taking money, thinking nobody would find out. But they did. The cops did. And her big fight with me? It didn't save her. It just made her look even sillier. The officers started walking her toward one of the cars. She was still talking, trying to explain. "I didn't mean to," she said. "It's a mistake." But nobody believed her. The neighbors were coming out now, poking their heads out their doors, watching. Mr. Johnson from down the street stood on his porch, arms crossed. Little Timmy's mom peeked out her window, her eyes big. Everyone was seeing it. Linda, the lady who told us what to do, getting taken away by the police. It was the wildest thing I'd ever seen in our neighborhood. I stayed by my mailbox, watching as they opened the car door. Linda looked back at me for a second, and our eyes met. She didn't say anything, but her face said it all. She was mad, scared, and maybe a little embarrassed. I didn't wave or smile, I just watched. The cop helped her into the back seat, and then they shut the door. The sound of it closing thunk was loud in the quiet street. And that was it. Linda was caught. Her big secret was out, and there was no going back. I turned around and walked back to my pool, my head buzzing. Linda wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She was a thief. She'd been stealing from all of us, hiding it behind her clipboard and her bossy voice. And my pool heater? It didn't matter one bit. It was just something she used to keep acting big, even when the cops were already closing in. I sat down by the water, picked up my lemonade, and took a sip. The sun was still shining, the pool was still warm, and Linda? She was gone. What a day. The cops put the handcuffs on Linda, and her clipboard fell to the ground with a little thud. It just sat there in the grass, all alone, while they held her arms. She didn't look like the bossy Linda anymore, she looked small and caught. Neighbors started coming out of their houses, peeking from their doors and windows. Some were whispering to each other, some were gasping, like they couldn't believe it. Me. I was standing by my mailbox, grinning ear to ear. I couldn't help it. After all the yelling and spying she'd done, Linda was finally getting what she deserved. The police didn't waste time. They walked her to their car, one cop on each side. She tried to talk, saying stuff like, "This is a mistake," but they didn't listen. They opened the back door of the car, helped her in, and shut it bam. Then they drove off, lights flashing a little as they went down the street. Linda was gone, just like that. I stayed outside for a minute, watching the car disappear. The neighborhood got quiet again, but it felt different now. Lighter, maybe. Like we were all free from her clipboard and her rules. Later that day, I heard more. A neighbor told me Linda was in big trouble, real jail time trouble. They said she might have to stay locked up for years because of all the money she stole from the HOA. Years. I couldn't believe how much she'd taken, or how long she'd gotten away with it. But now, she was caught, and there was no wiggling out of it. The HOA people were running around like crazy, trying to fix everything she messed up. They had to figure out where all that stolen money went and how to make things right. Suddenly, my pool heater wasn't even on their minds. Nobody cared about it anymore, not after what Linda did. A few days later, something cool happened. A new HOA board took over, nice people who didn't wave clipboards or yell at anyone. They sent me a little note in the mail. It said, "Enjoy the pool. Sorry about Linda." I laughed when I read it. Sorry about Linda? Yeah, me too. But it was nice of them to say that. It felt like the neighborhood was starting fresh, and my pool heater was safe at last. No more banging on my door, no more 911 calls. Just peace and quiet. That night, I went out to my backyard and kicked back by the pool. The heater was still on, humming its soft little hum. I sat in a chair, put my feet up, and looked at the stars. The water sparkled a little under the moonlight, nice and warm. I thought about Linda, how she really believed she'd win this fight. She thought she could boss me around, scare me with the cops, and keep her secret hidden. Guess not. She picked the wrong guy to mess with, and now she was the one in trouble. I smiled to myself, feeling good. Justice was served, and I got to enjoy my pool in peace. What a week. So here's the thing, sometimes, the loudest people are the ones hiding the biggest secrets. Think about Linda. She was always yelling, waving that clipboard, acting like she was the boss of everyone. She'd tell us what to do, where to park, how to live. She was loud and pushy, and we all just went along with it because that's how she was. But in the end, she wasn't the big shot she pretended to be. She was sneaking around, taking money, doing stuff she didn't want anyone to know about. And when the truth came out, she got caught stuck in her own trap like a mouse in a cage. All that noise she made didn't save her. It just made her fall harder. It makes you think, right? Who's the real boss in your world? Is it the person shouting the loudest, telling everyone they're in charge? Or is it the quiet one, the one who doesn't say much but watches everything? Maybe the real power isn't in being loud, it's in waiting, staying calm, and letting the truth show itself. Linda thought she could scare me with her banging and her 911 call, but I just kept doing my thing. I didn't yell back. I didn't fight her. I waited. And guess what? The truth came out all on its own. She didn't see that coming, but I think deep down, I knew it would. What about you? Have you ever met someone like Linda, someone who talks big but hides something? Maybe a kid at school who brags all the time, or a grown-up who acts like they know everything. Next time you see them, take a closer look. Are they really as strong as they seem? Or are they just making noise to cover something up? I'd love to hear what you think. Drop your ideas below. Tell me about the loudest person you know and what you think they're hiding. It's fun to guess, isn't it? And hey, here's a little tip from me to you: next time you turn on your pool heater or do anything fun, make sure the cops aren't already on their way. I'm kidding, kind of. With Linda, you never knew what she'd pull next. But now she's gone, and I can swim in peace. It feels good knowing that sometimes, the quiet ones win. Not by shouting, not by fighting, but by just being themselves and letting the loud ones trip over their own feet. So take this with you: you don't have to be the loudest to be the strongest. You can be quiet, keep your cool, and still come out on top. Linda didn't get that, but I hope you do. Stay true to yourself, and the truth will always find a way to shine. Now go enjoy your day, maybe even splash in a pool if you've got one. And don't worry about any clipboard queens. They don't stand a chance against you.